Hey everybody, this is Joshua, the tendonitis expert. And this video is about Achilles tendon pain, and specifically where the tendon is not the problem. So there's only two reasons for Achilles tendon pain. The first is when there's an actual injury, by which I mean a rip or tear. If there's a rip or a tear of the tendon, then yes, that's a tendon problem and an actual cause of pain. But you can have the same amount of pain and even disabling pain when there's zero rip or tear, when there's zero actual injury. So the second reason for Achilles tendon pain is essentially the tendinitis dynamic. And by dynamic, I mean there's multiple factors involved. And again, you can have severe, even disabling pain, tendon pain, with zero actual injury, with zero actual tendon problem. So if you have tendon pain and no actual rip or tear, and the doctor and surgeon want to do surgery on that tendon, then I always wonder, what exactly are they going to do surgery on? What exactly are they going to fix? Because if the tendon is not the problem, then how is surgery going to help? Anywho, so if the tendon is not the problem, then what is? And as I said before, it's the tendon dynamic. And the tendon dynamic is made up of three factors: muscle and connective tissue tightness, inflammation, and nutritional insufficiency or deficiency. I use insufficiency, which just means not enough. So the tendon is not the problem, but these three factors absolutely are. When muscles and connective tissue are too tight, when there's inflammation, and when there's nutritional insufficiency, that can cause mild, severe, and or disabling tendon pain. Most Achilles tendonitis is just from the tendonitis dynamic. It's not because there's wear and tear, although there can be wear and tear in place. It's not because there's scar tissue, although there can be some scar tissue in place. But ultimately, the main cause of even the scar tissue is muscles and connective tissue are too tight, inflammation process, and nutritional insufficiency. So let's talk about how those can cause tendon pain. So let's say that this right here is your Achilles tendon, let's say, all of that. And then this is muscle. So again, this is muscle. And there's a lot of different muscle fibers and groupings of fibers and structures, even in the calves themselves. But then underneath the tendon here, against the bone, is the soleus. And that's a big one. It's under here as well. So it's a deep muscle, it's a big muscle, and it is also connected to the tendon. So you have the calves, the gastrocs, you have the soleus, and then you have all the connective tissue that's wrapping those muscles and all those other structures, a lot of connective tissue in there, and it's all, when things are too tight, pulling on that tendon. So imagine for a moment that you were to gently pull on your finger. You just gently pull on it, but you pull on it for 6 months. You can imagine that even in a day or two, if that long, it's going to start to hurt, and it's going to start to hurt really bad. Not because you're damaging it, but because it's getting irritated and irritated and irritated. So in this scenario, if your tendon hurts, if you have Achilles tendonitis and pain on the Achilles tendon itself, then muscle and connective tissue tightness is one factor. The muscle pulls that direction, the connective tissue pulls that direction and other directions, but it's pulling on the tendon, and that causes pain. And then there's inflammation. Inflammation does a few things, but one of the main things is it releases chemicals into the tissue. Pain-enhancing chemical that sets your nerve receptors on edge. So in and around your tendon, you have connective tissue, you have chemical, which is enhancing your sensitivity to pain. It's telling the brain there's a problem, and the brain doesn't like that. So the brain turns up the tightness, which in turn causes more irritation, which in turn creates more inflammation, which in turn creates more chemical. That's why things spread often. You start having muscle pain and ankle pain is because that chemical is floating throughout the system, literally making you feel pain where normally you wouldn't. And nutritional insufficiency. Nutritional insufficiency comes from a few different directions. For instance, tight muscles eats up magnesium. inflammation process eats up B6. There's more to it than that, of course, but you can see how for years and decades you have tight muscles that are eating up more and more nutrition. You've had chronic inflammation, which eats up more and more nutrition. You end up being short on nutrition, and then your body can't work correctly. And when your body can't work correctly, you guessed it, you get more tightness, you get more inflammation, and less nutrition available in your system. So ultimately, those are the causes of non-injury Achilles tendon pain. The tendon itself is not the problem. Surgery on the tendon isn't going to fix muscle or connective tissue tightness. It's not going to fix inflammation and the causes of inflammation, and it's obviously not going to correct the nutritional insufficiency. So if you have Achilles tendon pain, the first question to ask is, do you have an actual injury? And if you don't, and even if you do, you have to deal with the tightness, the inflammation, and the nutritional insufficiency if you want to get rid of the Achilles tendon pain. To find out more about Achilles tendon pain, visit my website, tendinitisexpert.com/Achilles-tendon-pain.html, and there's a link to that under the video. And of course, there's always more to learn. But ultimately what there is to know is you can get rid of pain, you just have to take the right actions and enough of the right actions.